right now have our panelists. We do have Miss Elizabeth Nkukuu. I would like you to go ahead on stage so that we can start this conversation, and I'll read your bio just so that people could understand exactly what it is that you do. So Elizabeth Nkukuu, we call her Liz, is the team leader at Liz Consulting, a firm that is passionate about wealth creation through direct investment and building businesses that last. Liz has close to 20 years of experience in investment management, looking after assets both in Africa and abroad. She has worked in some of the big investment corporates and has run a couple of businesses, learning a lot from both worlds, both the corporate world and the business world. Her combination of impressive professional and academic qualification. She's a CFA and she's also a CPA Kenya and currently finalizing her PhD in finance. And she has hands-on experience gained by running businesses, bringing together significant advantage of the theory and the practical aspects of running successful businesses. She's also a recent published author of the book Thrive, a book highlighting a step-by-step guide on wealth creation and financial freedom achievement. So welcome again, Liz, to the panel discussion. What is your thought around why it's very important to have financial planning?
When you think, thanks so much, Wambui, and thanks for having us for this conversation. I think it's one of those things that ticks me. And you're like, people need to live better lives because, and the reason why maybe we are struggling is because we did not learn this in school. So it's something that we have to all be deliberate about in making sure that everybody is thinking about their financial wellness. So when you think about a plan, it's really how am I going to get to where I want to go? What is my destination? So when it comes to financial planning, it is a whole journey of where do I want to go? And I keep saying, you have to have a clear framework of where I need to go based on everything that comes in. So if it's my spiritual life, what do I want to be? If it comes to my health, what do I need? When it comes to maybe my career, what do I need? And you cannot do all these things. If it's family even, you have to think about what do I want my family's success to look like? You cannot be able to do this if finances are out of it. I think you cannot be able to run a successful career if money is not a part of it. We cannot be good followers of Christ if you do not have money to give back and also maybe tithe. So when you think about financial planning, it is really at the base of everything that we want to do because it gives us options. It gives us options of what we need to do, and we cannot really run around not knowing where we want to go. So financial planning helps us to take a step back, say, this is where I am, this is where I want to go, and this is how I'm going to go there. So almost like helping you come up with your goals and then itemizing step by step, this is how I'm going to get there. And eventually, how will success look like when I get to the other side? So that is why you cannot do away without financial planning. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Liz. Where do you want to go and what are the steps that you need to take there? We are all talking about creating wealth, right? Everyone I meet, all young Africans, people in the diaspora, everyone wants to be wealthy, right? But then again, it starts like, okay, where do I start? So could you tell us with each of your organizations, because really we want to take this very practical, in each of your organizations, like for you, Donald, with Ofron, what are the solutions that you're actually offering so that people can start planning and then they can start creating wealth? And also, Liz, if you tell us what you're doing at Liz Consulting, then we can actually see concretely what is it that people can do, because the essence is whoever is watching this conference will be able to actually reach out to each of your teams and they can start taking up the solution. So maybe you can start, Liz, tell us what exactly you're doing at Liz Consulting in regards to letting people become wealthy. That's what people want.
Great, thanks. One of the, let me start. When I look at the wealth creation journey, one of the biggest challenge we have is about knowledge. Knowledge about things that I don't know. At times you think we know, but we do not know. So one of the biggest challenges is about information. So at Liz Consulting, we took a step back and said, why is it that people are struggling to create wealth? And even if we are investing, are we investing in the right thing? I think like 2 weeks or so ago, if you read the Kenyan newspaper, there are about 4 million people who have lost money through crypto or something. So the question becomes, how did you get yourself there? And maybe that is the first amount of the batch of that is your first investment that maybe that you took. So if you took your first investment and invested in that kind of an investment, do you really understand the whole journey? So one of the things that we did is we took a step back and said, by the time someone is engaging in their wealth creation journey, let us equip them with information so that they know when I'm calling so-and-so investment bank, this is what I'm really looking for. And one of the things I always say, if you're getting into the investment in the capital market, start with the most riskless asset that you can do. You will learn a lot. When you get your monthly statement with that summary from each of the investment, from each of the fund manager, it actually helps you to know, I need to understand how inflation affects my investment. And you see, if you invested in the money market fund, you're not losing, but you're getting information. If you go to the AGMs or the member educations, it really helps you understand the basics. I think it's one of those things when it comes to investment, we cannot wish away information. So at least consulting, we offer trainings on that. If you're running a business, most of us got into business by accident or because we had to, and we have to make good with what we have. So as you're running a business, it is good to look at people who have been successful before, but it's good to know, how do I create the key pillars that I need to run a sustainable business? So we have structured our course around that. But one of the things is, I will teach you and you'll forget. But if I walk the journey with you, you'll be able to actually identify what are the key challenges and what do I need to do. So what we do is, despite the training, or in addition to the training, we will actually give you the advice that you need and work within the wealth management journey for individual and businesses. But more if you're running a business, you won't have been in this thing for so long. What do I need to do to get it successful? So we also offer transactional advisory, but at the same time, our focus is really business reengineering, because we believe all of us can run successful businesses. And as the keynote speaker had talked about, for wealth creation, I think most of the people have created wealth through entrepreneurship. I was looking at a certain study, about 25% of the world millionaires, they're actually through running businesses. So we cannot wish away that. And that is where we need to create enterprises that are going to grow for the long term. So if you're running a business, we are happy to look at it for you. And then we see, this is what we need to do to grow to the next level. So thank you so much, and back to you.
You're right. Great. So any information, any advisory services, then you are saying people should go to Leaf Consulting so that you work with them on the journey, whether it's in the investment space or even business. You said something very interesting. You said most people don't go into business, they go into business because they sort of find themselves there, or if they have no other alternative. And I always say I'm one of the very few who was very intentional to get into business. And that's because of my background. Everybody who was wealthy was in business. And so I was like, I want to be wealthy. So I started, Regal Africa, and it's been challenging, but it's been very interesting. And I love that experience that I'm able to impact people's lives. So it's great to hear that you are saying be intentional, come for information as you start on your creating a wealth journey.
When people think of financial planning, if you're starting out, Liz, then I'll go to you and ask, what comes to mind when you say financial planning for a beginner who hasn't got much money and is thinking, I could get started here, but it's a little intimidating? What's the go-to first few steps before we get it all too complicated? you're in Lease Consulting, and I'm sure you've seen starting points of several people. What are the simplest vehicles that you advise for people to start off on? Because the first thing we would ask is, do people even go to financial advisors? And then if the few that are coming through, what do you usually advise so that we stay on track and we can make it a habit as we grow in our financial education?
Thanks, Irene. When I think about investments, generally, for me, the starting point is investing in self, because once you invest in yourself, then you'll have you'll be able to move forward. So do as much as possible that you can to invest in yourself. I'm not saying that you finish high school, you finish campus and go to do a master's. You really do not know what mastering you are doing. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm saying really look for information as much as possible. I think one of the things like attending such a webinar, it's not expensive, but the amount of information you will get is a lot. Once you've done that, then investment is a journey. Do not expect to run before you crawl. It is good to take the steps to learn. And one of the things is always, what is it that I can invest in today? I learn as much as possible what the way investments operate, even as I expect to grow my world and I am able to actually get into more risky assets. So understand the key fundamentals of any investment, the risk, the return, the liquidity. Once you have done that, the return is what I'm going to get. The risk is how probable that I'm not going to get back my money. And the liquidity, when things happen, how easy is it for me to get my money without necessarily losing value? So the starting point is always to get to invest in the investment with the least risk. And I think in my mind, the thing that comes in is really the unit trust. Start with the unit trust, understand what they are investing in. Do not go to the unit, in my view, again, do not invest in unit trusts that have risky assets. So money market is always a natural place to start. You can go to fixed
Liz, on that money market one, how do you, even as a beginner, do some homework or some 5 ticks to say, this is the ideal money market fund for me? Because even with good intentions, you get into some and you find that it's not aligned with what you were hoping for. How do you get to a place where I'm saying, this is money market, it's well structured, it's safe enough? What kind of ticks do I need to go through as a beginner to make sure that at least I'm starting off on the right foot?
If you look at the money market fund, the way it is generally regulated, unless something really happens, the regulations tends to be the same and it cuts across. And if there are issues in any of the money market fund, you'll definitely be able to tell that from the Capital Markets Authority. So it's one of the things that I say there. It's looking at the brand that you would care for, or a brand that aligns to your values, and then that is what the direction that you go. But the beauty about money market fund, the information is all there. You just need to go to the newspaper and see this is what is coming up. So ask yourself the hard questions and then go with the one that you would like to go with. Because in terms of the return variations, at times it's not so much to warrant maybe going with one brand or the other. So there I would think about, in terms of regulations and in terms of the framework of the money market fund, they generally are the same if you're talking about money market. There are other funds that are asset specific. Yeah. So maybe I'm really looking at a fund that is highly invested maybe in real estate, in private equity or something like that. Let me first understand the operations of the underlying, because the biggest challenge we have in investment is not understanding where this money is being put. So if you are going to invest in an equity fund, understand the dynamics of an equity fund so that I understand the risk. So that for me would be the second level of investing. So once you have already started with money market, understand general operations of the macroeconomic and how asset returns are done, then that's where you can go to very specific sort of investments. So when you're starting off, maybe to start a savings culture, you could join things like the circle. And the circle is not really an investment per se, it is a savings product.
Yeah.
It's a savings product, not an investment product, because you're not going to get returns that are great, but it will help you create a culture of savings. Then once you get from there, you can go to the money market funds, and then now you can go to the asset specific. So that is the ladder that I would take. Again, do not rush the process. Do not rush the process, because you have to learn each of these things and how they operate.
And to that, Elizabeth, then I say, how do you, because when you're starting out, I think there's a misconception that the process may not cost you anything. It costs a little to get financial planners like yourselves. It costs some tax, and it costs the unit trust some fees for managing your money. How do you incorporate all of that into your portfolio? And then how do you cater for things like taxes and insurance, and make sure that you're not overstretching yourself in any of those areas?
Thanks, Irene. When you're coming up with your portfolio, and especially, let me just go back to the unit trusts.
Yeah.
Good to know the return that I'm getting. Is it gross of the fund manager's fees or net? So that if you're looking at your return, you really know what is going on. And when you're starting off again, you might not have the money. Actually, I don't think it's necessary maybe to have even a tax consultant at that level, because the tax that you're going to get charged is really, you already know it. So if it's a fixed income investment, it's 15%. So you might not need to get through that that kind of what do I say? You do not, that advice does not make sense. You're not going to pay for it. But it is good to know the returns that I'm going to get. Is it gross? Is it net? And what does it mean for me? What is going to come to my pocket? So if I'm getting a 10% return, that is, the question is, what is it that I'm going to get at the end of the day credited to my account? Then ask yourself, are there alternatives? Because you see, once you've already identified, this is where I want to go. There are various alternative courses of action that you can undertake. So if I'm starting again, do I place this money in a fixed deposit? What am I going to get? And who is in, what are the shenanigans that come with all that? Or do I just maybe simply say, let me put this money in a money market fund. The fund manager will file for me my withholding tax. So for me, it will be much, much easier in terms of management. So understanding the operations of each of these funds is important. But I still go back to money market funds or pooled funds. Let me just say pooled funds actually make your life much easier. Remember, at that time, as well as you're starting, you also maybe are starting your job, or you're starting your business. So you also do not have a lot of time to allocate to understand this. So as Don had said, if you're investing in the equities market, it is very difficult for you to run a model of Safaricom today from scratch and say this is the way to go. That is why the advisors are there to charge you the 2% or 1% fee, and they're going to make the right investment decision for you. You cannot, the amount of money that you have 100,000, how much can you diversify to make a difference? So why can't you buy into a diversified portfolio anyway that is going to help you gain from diversification, but you're not doing it yourself? So alternative courses of actions are there, and it's easy to get them and to get the right advice to do it at very minimal cost, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Now that we have that money aside, but we know our communities, we've gotten into this habit of borrowing because there is easy access online, you know, kind of digital borrowing, even to the banks that you go to the borrowing. And I think people don't quite connect that you will have to pay this money back. And there's interest attached to it, no matter how well it was sold. And interest varies depending on who it is that you're borrowing from. And this could affect your goals, the same ones that Donald has, you know, explained so well. You don't want to puncture that just by borrowing for things that you could wait. How do we, A, reduce the borrowing, and 2, make sure that if we are borrowing, it's the good kind of borrowing? What would you advise us to consider?
When you think about debt management, there are 2 levels. I'm either in a debt situation or I am okay, but want to grow. So one of the things that when you hear debt, most of the time we go to bad debt, you know, like we always have this thing that we associate debt with really bad things, but there are also good success stories about debt. So I think the starting point is, again, conversations about what can I borrow for? I think there was something I saw online that, and we all have the different business models. So just the caveat I put in. So I'm borrowing, if, for example, let me say something like Victoria Courts. They have really nice furniture and they want you to borrow and then pay on the go. So you see, it's very enticing because, I will have a nice, the house will look better, well polished, but at what cost? Because it's not coming in cheaply. So I feel like it's that conversation that we need to have and tell people, you know what, you cannot borrow for consumables. That seat depreciates immediately to get out of that showroom. The reason why I do not want to use a car as an example, and that was I've always been used, it's because at times the car is a necessity. For you to be able to get from point A or to deliver the services that you need that car. So it becomes a significant part of the value delivery for you. But for a seat, there is no way a seat can ever be an investment. So having that conversation and telling people, you know what, you can only buy consumables using the money that you have saved for. And it's also not so difficult to save for it. I'm a strong believer of goal-based investments. It is good to have a nice seat, but it can wait for 3-4 months for me to be able to save for it. I do not have to pay an extra shilling so that I can own it. So one of the biggest problem of debt is the feeling to belong. I want to be like Don. I cannot be Don forever. No, I can learn from him, but I cannot be him. So one of the biggest problem on debt is actually that urge to belong. So I think more conversation about being real to yourself and knowing this is where I want to go. And then bucket your savings and say, once I get to these savings, then I'll be happy and I will have achieved ABCD. So goal-based investment is the way to go. And remember also to celebrate the small wins. So like, for example, I want a seat. I don't have to borrow for it, but the day I buy it, it is good to draw a bash. You know, it is cost me another extra 10K, but those celebrations make you actually more disciplined to move on forward. So, but debt, my biggest problem with debt, I think we are largely influenced by the people that we sit around. So I think that robotic that Don is talking about is the way to go, so that we surround ourselves with the people that will influence as well.
What are the 5 principles that we can take with us today, Liz, to say that I haven't started? These are the 5 things that I should take away from this seminar that say I am at 0, but by the end of the year or 2 years, this is what I should have done. What are the 5 and the wins along the way, how to measure that very, very easily and continuously. Liz, I think you're on mute.
Yeah. So I think the starting point is awareness. The starting point is to know that I know or I don't know. And then once you have done that, gain knowledge. So I know that I don't know this, so let me look for information about it. The second point now is review of where you are. Understand where you are. So review where you are today. This is what I need, or this is what, almost like what I would call, come up with your balance sheet. You're looking for your net asset value. You're really understanding this is what I have and this is what I can use it for. Then the second part, after that, then you go to review where you want to go. So set your goals. Set your goals. Once you've set your goals, start executing, because the problem that we have as individuals is that we know this is where I want to go, but I am really not moving. So execute. I want to open a money market account. Let me not wait until the day I have 10,000. I can start it today. Let me start the process today so that I can proceed and now start growing on it. Then once you've already executed, you can be able, after a period of time, always have timelines to review your goals and how far you've come. So review is important. And it's okay not to have gotten to your goals, but you are actually able to say, this is where I went short. So awareness is important. Seek information, come up with your goals, look at the courses of action and execute, then review. Constant review is important. The reason why I put that together is if you are able to do those 5 things together, you will be able to know, I need to do my tax planning, I need to do my wealth planning, because they all fall around your goal setting. So maybe just to summarize, all that is captured in my book, Thrive. It has really different things in terms of how to need in your goal setting. So you can always be able to get that through Seller. Thank you.
I'm getting a question that most people that were interested, and this is for you, Liz, as well, very quickly. Most people that are interested in this session are male. So the first question that comes to mind is that, don't women like to plan? And should men plan differently from women? Because it seems like men are more hungry than women are. I don't know what the message this is sending, because it seems like it's male and a little over 35. Is that a trigger, like you said?
I'm actually surprised. I thought ladies would join more on the personal financial planning.
Yeah, because we have so many of us in Chamas. We are so many of us in Chamas that we kind of lead when it comes to small savings and starting small. I'm surprised that this is, yeah, that's different. So what would you advise then? Male over 35, few women, should we save differently? Should they save differently?
I think, like Don said, age is a factor. Let me talk about myself. I think when I turned 40, something just was like, hi, I'm in the last half of my life, you know? So something just comes in and I need to put my world in order. So I think age definitely plays a big role in terms of what you need to do. And I think at 35, really, you're really trying to, you have kids, you have family, there's a lot of things that have changed in your life that you need to actually put in order. So the financial planning conversation mainly comes in at those ages, in my view, not only because of the family circumstances, also your earning power has increased. So at that point, you're like, no, I have money to plan, sort of in the mind. But for me, the surprise is that I thought ladies are more inclined into wealth management, but maybe it is, that thing of, it takes time. There are also very few ladies, maybe in the formal, whatever sector. So it's one of those things that maybe we need to look at and as ladies and say, how do we champion financial wellness for ladies across the globe? Because then this is a big challenge. But in terms of, because I run weekly trainings, it's a little bit different in my view, because I always find more ladies logging in more than this. So it's something maybe we need to do more work on. But yes, do they have to have different, should the financial plans be different? I would not put it different by gender, but I would put it different by our life goals. What do ladies really want to achieve as opposed to guys? And that is what would guide where we want to go.
So closing remarks, Liz.
Great. I will just read a quote. Financial freedom can only be achieved by a conscious choice. It's not an accident. It's not just merely by thinking, it's through grinding and doing what is necessary to get to that goal. So you have to decide that this is what I want to do, or this is where I want to get to, and then wake up every day facing that direction and make sure that when you have to change, you can change, but make sure that you are waking up and pushing towards that direction. So thank you so much, Anne, for creating this. I think it, in terms of awareness, just knowing that this is what I need to think about is important. And that is the first starting point for all of us. So thank you so much. Have a blessed day.